Pick the most valuable. Well, here are a couple of problems with that issue. A couple issues with that bit of information. Yeah. So we believe it came over on the Mayflower. First of all, what is it?
Well, to me it looked like a teapot, but it's not very big.
It is a teapot. It had a red string from here to here, so you wouldn't lose this. It came over on a ship, but it was not a Mayflower, the Mayflower, because the Pilgrims get to Plymouth in 1620, and people are going, okay, yeah, that sounds right, Dr. Laurie, that's kind of close, right? Okay. So the Pilgrims are up there in the early 1600s. This piece isn't made until the 1800s. So it's hard to get a piece that's made in the 1800s onto a ship that gets here in the 1600s, right? Okay, that's okay. So now the other thing that we have here is we have a small teapot, and the reason why I know the teapot was on a ship is because it's small. And the other reason is because that string, that little loop here for the string, is so we don't, you know, we're sitting there and the ship's moving and all of a sudden the lid's somewhere else and then you can't use the teapot anymore. It has a sieve area right here, right? So all the little tea leaves won't get into your cup. I do that every morning with the coffee grounds. Every morning at the bottom, my last sip of my coffee cup is grounds every day. I'm a lousy cook. I can't even make coffee right. So this particular piece also has something that I think everybody should look for. Notice here it's glazed on the inside, which means you're going to ingest. And you can tell what's not glazed around the top and what is glazed in the bottom. And the same thing around the perimeter of this, it's not glazed, and in the middle it is glazed. Okay? That indicates that you're going to ingest it. The glaze is important because you don't want to ingest what is the clay, basically. Okay? Value on this, oh, it's Asian, it's made in China, it's unmarked, and it dates about 1850 or so. Value on the piece, about $100 damaged. If it were in perfect condition, you'd be about $250. You don't have, it's damaged here, and it also does, it has a loss area, but that's what it is. Nice. Where's Jessica? Hi, honey, how are you?
Good.
Thanks for coming. How did you acquire this? It's your grandfather's, okay. So this particular piece, is it hand painted?
I believe it is.
Why?
It looks hand painted.
What looks hand painted? How do you know if something's hand painted? You grew up in an antique mall and it looked hand painted. So you're saying the background in your life was you were around things because somebody was an antique dealer? Okay, so your grandparents owned antique malls. So in being around your grandparents and in these antique malls, you were able to identify, oh, that's hand painted and that's not. Okay, well, you're probably not way off. You're a kid, and kids are sponges, and they learn everything, and you probably aren't way off. So, what were some of the identifying factors that would say to you that's hand painted? Texture. So sometimes texture will tell you if you put your hand near a painting, and you just lightly touch a painting. Texture will tell you whether or not you have a hand painted work or something else. What else? A lot of detail, but it's not all perfect. So a lot of detail on your hand-painted pieces, but they're not all sort of photorealistic or really, really, really realistic, right? So this piece you think is hand-painted. So somebody took the time to actually paint this. If you take the loupe or you take the 10-time magnification, right, and you say, okay, I'm going to look at this carefully, that particular piece is indeed hand-painted, right? And most of it is if you can see a brush stroke. If you can see, oh, somebody with their hand and a brush actually painted this kind of thing. Okay, so that's what you've got here. So they're hand painted. What kind of fish?
Bass, trout, I don't know.
Bass, trout, I don't know. I know. You know why? Because I'm the youngest of 3 daughters, and my father wanted a son. And he didn't get one, and my mother wasn't helping anymore. 3 was enough, right? Okay. So, interestingly enough, my 2 lazy sisters, oh yes, I love you both, but when my father wanted to go fishing early at crack of dawn, Lori, honey, will you come fishing with Daddy? Yes, I'll come fishing with Daddy, and I will go fishing with Daddy. So I know that these are rainbow trout. You know how I know them? The first fish that I caught was a rainbow trout. That's how I know. And they have like a rainbow, right, on their body. Kind of looks like a rainbow, and the rainbow trout are right here. They kind of have this funny little mouth like that. They're rainbow trout. My mother would cook them. They tasted terrible, and I was like, this is awful. The whole experience was bad. Except I'd get 5 cents for every worm that I could find on the back porch that my father would use for bait. So I was the kid who was getting worms. And people are like, you're the big Ph.D. antiques appraiser and you're scooping up worms? Yes, in my childhood, I was scooping up worms. See, it's good to do those things. I was about 11. I was like your age. Anyway, this particular piece is a very nice example. And this particular piece has what's called a donut mold. This mold looks like a donut, maybe an oval bagel even. And this particular piece is a very nice example of the early years of the 20th century. So these kinds of pieces oftentimes come in blank and then are decorated in either studio decorated places, or sometimes they are decorated not only in studios, but sometimes they're decorated by folks who are just interested in making a game or a fishing platter. That's what you have here. So these particular platters are highly sought after. People like to collect them. They actually introduce or come into cultural or decorative interest about the 1870s, and then you see them throughout the early part of the 20th century till about 1925 or so. Value on the piece in my hand, about $250. It's really quite beautiful. It's gorgeous ceramic, very nice, high quality. It's a good piece. This particular piece is, in terms of ceramic, it's a nice example, and it's very high value, mainly for the hand painting, the craftsmanship of the work of the hand painter. So the actual studio artist or the artist who painted this did a really good job doing just that. You know, fish aside, and my interest in fish, because I like fish, this particular piece is really quite fine. It has nice 22 carat banding. There's a little bit of loss right here. This is from rubbing, right, from touching the piece. Why I always wear the gloves, right? You don't want to get the oils on your hands to be attracted to the object, attract dirt and deteriorate it. But that's all this is from. It's from age and rubbing. It's been moved here and there. You'll notice on these sides where you actually don't handle the piece as much, there isn't as much loss to the banding, right? The gold leaf, if you will. So when you're looking at ceramics, you want to look for a couple of things. Sure, you want to look for marks, but you also want to look for what is the quality, the inherent quality, right? The quality that relates sort of to the object itself. So this particular teacup that belongs to Linda is a pretty good example. Where are you, Linda?
Right here.
Hi, hon. How are you doing? So did somebody have a collection of teacups? A lot of people have teacups. This particular example. So this example with respect to the teacups, this one has some damage, right? So let's talk a little bit about damage. So here's the first thing we want to talk about. This particular piece is a Royal Albert bone china teacup in the Christine pattern. So when you look at a mark, do you know how to read the mark? A lot of people do, a lot of people don't. It'll usually tell you what it's made of, right? It'll tell you who's the maker, Royal Albert. It'll tell you the pattern, that's the Christina pattern. So some of these will tell you all the information right here on the bottom. And it should match. So what's on the cup should be on the saucer, right? If it's not, or even if it's in a different color or a different print or font, right, or size, then they probably had it from the same maker, but they made that particular pattern at a later date. Okay, so let's look at damage. So damage will tell you a lot, not only about condition, but it'll tell you a lot about value. First of all, these particular pieces, this piece looks like tea has been used in it. Okay, so tea will stain. The same way tea will stain your teeth, tea will stain your saucer. So that's what you have here. You also have what is called an internal crack. Not only because it's on the inside, but you also have it here at the bottom. So the crack has gone to the actual body of the piece. You want, a chip is better than a crack. So if something's chipped, it's a little bit easier to repair it. If something's cracked, it goes to the foundation of the piece, and that's problematic. So I always tell people, be careful when you have these particular pieces, because once you've got a crack, it's going to keep cracking. Okay? So Grandma had a lot of different teacups, and this particular teacup and saucer piece is very nice bone china. Bone china has bone ash in it, where porcelain doesn't. That's the difference between bone china and porcelain. And you need to know these differences. The other thing you want to think about is the way in which these are together. So this pattern is here, and this pattern is also followed or continued on the saucer. In this condition, this piece is worth about $5. All that conversation, it's still not worth all that much. In good condition, a cup and saucer like that could be worth around $20. Okay, for the cup with the saucer, Royal Albert, and this particular example, bone china, which is nice. So then you have this cup and saucer. To whom does this belong? This is also a very good cup and saucer brand name. So, you're looking for brand names and you're in the supermarket, you're thinking, I want Scott Tissue, or I want Kleenex, or you want a brand name, right? When it comes to these cups and saucers, the idea of Royal Albert here, right? That's a brand name and a good one. And then this one, of course, is Wedgwood, right? So how did we acquire the Wedgwood? And this also has staining in it. You can see it from use. That's going to happen. You can be as clean as a whistle. I have one sister, she is cleaner than anybody on earth. Mr. Clean looks like a garbage man compared to my sister, okay? Very, very clean. Even if you clean it, even if you were very, very neat, some of the staining is just gonna happen. So, tell me about this. How'd you acquire this cup and saucer? Okay, so is this a full set and you just brought the cup and saucer?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a green mark Wedgwood Etruria piece. It has, in fact, a very nice decoration here. No, not colorful like the Royal Albert, but in fact very nice decoration as well. It has beading at the bottom of the cup, but it doesn't continue the beading in the saucer, which is unusual. Usually if there's a bead there, there's usually a bead here. But okay. Now the mark is the same and the marks match, but you'll notice that one mark is a little bit darker. That might have to do with the fact that the saucer didn't get as much strenuous cleaning or washing as the cup would, right? Because what's going to really happen to the bottom of the saucer? Not that much. These didn't go in the dishwasher, remember, right? So this particular cup and saucer in this condition worth about $60, cup and saucer. Brand name, good condition. Okay, so that's a nice set as well. When you compare and contrast them, I want you to notice a couple of things. People would say, oh, well, they're both teacups. They're not both teacups. This one is a teacup. Okay, delicate handle, 22 karat gold banding, small, and it kind of opens up like a flower, kind of like small here, and then it kind of comes up, almost the way a bud of a flower will open. This is a coffee cup. This particular coffee cup comes up. That doesn't mean you can't put tea in a tea bag in it. It just means when it was produced, the idea was for coffee rather than tea. It has a larger opening this way. It is actually the diameter this way is much larger than the diameter this way. So tea is actually meant to be drunk in a particular cup. And there's a great book out there, it's called The History of the World in 6 Drinks. And there's the difference between coffee and tea and beer and rum and how they impact history. So that's basically what you have here. They're very nice, however. The ceramic piece is really nice. And speaking of cups, here's another cup. So, how did we acquire this one? Linda. Linda, is this the same grandma? Same grandma, so she's got all kinds of teacups. How many does she have total? Like, is it a big, big collection in in like a cabinet or something? So your sister got 8 and you got 5. And why did your sister get 8? Are you the youngest kid?
Because I got that plate.
You got that important plate. That's true. She got a plate. I'm sorry. It's a very important plate she got from her grandmother. So her sister, it's okay. You got the plate, so you couldn't get all the teacups too. Your sister drew the line. She was like, hey, you're getting the plate, right? Okay, I get that. Are you the eldest? Are you older or younger than your sister? You're second in the line of 7. Wow, that's a long line, right? Jeez, a lot of kids, a lot of tea, a lot of coffee, a lot of food. Oh boy, 7 is a lot. Your mother must have been a good woman, man, 7. My mother was like, I am done at 3. I don't care how many boys you want, go adopt a boy. I don't know. Be a big brother or something, but I'm not doing it anymore. Anyway, Royal Tuscan work, fine bone china. This is brown Paisley. It says a member of the Wedgwood group. It says it right on it, member of the Wedgwood group. What does that mean? That this particular manufacturer is also under that umbrella of Wedgwood. So they're using that for marketing. Ooh, it's kind of like Wedgwood. It's a member of the group, right? Kind of like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones were members of the British invasion kind of thing. So you're understanding that. This is a beautiful cup. Do you have the saucer? Where's the saucer, Linda? Your mother had the saucer, didn't she? Did you lose the saucer? One of those 7 kids did something to that. Well, you got 7 kids, what do you expect? You got a chip here, but I told you I like a chip better than I like a crack. Right? So the chip, if you still had the little piece, is easier to repair, right? A crack, forget it, you're done. It's gonna stain, it's gonna break, it's gonna keep cracking, bad. But this particular piece is also quite nice. Now you'll notice, is this a coffee cup, is this a teacup? I just taught you this. Is this tea or is this coffee? Tea. This is a teacup, the flare, right? People are going, okay, I'm getting that. And then you're thinking, someone really came up with this? Yes, someone came up with all this stuff for antiques. All of it. All this stuff. I know, you're nodding your head like, I can't believe that. Someone cares. Someone cared. Anyway, this particular cup on its own is worth about $10. Nice, though. Those are nice.